we are so excited to be able to share what we've been, what we're working on, and some of the changes that we're seeing within the surgical education space. So first, I want to introduce myself. I'm the Director of Clinical Design here at Osso VR. I've been working with the company for about 5.5 years, and over that time, we have assembled the largest medical illustration team in the world. And I want to share a little bit about why that is so critical to Osso's mission. So our mission at Osso VR is, number one, to improve patient outcomes. We also are looking to increase the adoption of high-value medical devices. And then thirdly is to democratize access to educational materials around the world. And the reason that we feel so passionately about our mission is because as we've all experienced, there is a shift happening within the medical community. For a long time, the idea of see one, do one, teach one has been the gold standard of surgical training, where for truly hundreds of years now, this has been employed where the first thing residents are going to do is they'll go in and observe a surgery, then they'll perform the surgery, and finally, they will instruct others on how to perform that surgery. And this was a truly revolutionary approach, which is the reason that it's still utilized today. However, there are some challenges that come with this approach, and we're seeing these become more and more prevalent within medical education today. So here's a great example of how of this principle applied. And as you can see, the opportunity to teach one used to be constrained to a bunch of people standing in a room gathered around a surgical table. Many of us have experienced that exact same thing as we've gone through our various coursework and also into our professions. But there are limitations that come with this. One is having access to the facilities and the particular cases that represent what we want to show. So a few of the main challenges that we're seeing right now are, number one, there's just simply too much to learn. As the amount of different cases and solutions to the variety of maladies that exist today continues to expand, that puts the pressure on our healthcare providers to have a good understanding and exposure to the wide range of techniques out there. In addition to the number of techniques exploding, there's also an increase in complexity. So these are fantastic advancements. Things like robotics or patient-specific implants have gone a long way to improve patient outcomes. However, a lot of studies have shown that where traditional methodologies and techniques typically took around 30 to 50 cases in order to truly master the procedure, a lot of these more complex procedures are showing 50 to 100 cases before the healthcare providers feel fully proficient in performing those cases. So that essentially means that there are 50 to 100 patients who are acting in some degree or another as a guinea pig for the surgeon to learn. And then finally, there is minimal technical assessment involved in surgical training. We all know that healthcare providers undergo rigorous training and education to get to where they're at before they're practicing, but the majority of assessment is done through knowledge assessment and not technical skills. But just like airline pilots who undergo a lot of simulation before they are entrusted with the lives of passengers, so too should surgeons be held to the same standard, where they demonstrate not only their knowledge of the techniques, but also the technical skill involved and required to perform these complex techniques. So the question then is, why Osso VR? So looking at these challenges, we took an approach where we developed a system using off-the-shelf hardware to replicate those complexities within virtual reality. And the platform that we've developed addresses each of those challenges in these ways. So number one is it is immersive education. And the benefit here is, rather than watching a video or reading a technique guide, this brings that technique to life, where you can fully immerse yourself in the process of going through the technique step by step and understanding, gaining not only the knowledge of the workflow, but also the technical skills involved in that particular technique. We also have enabled collaborative training. And what this means is that within that virtual operating room, we can have a multiplayer collaborative experience where users can join in from wherever they're at and work together as a surgical team or as trainer and trainee to better understand the particular technique that they're practicing. And then I'm joined fortunately today with two of our incredible artists who develop the assets, specifically the organic assets that are utilized within these techniques. Because while going through the workflow and practicing those surgical skills is critical to conveying the education, so too is the clinical accuracy that comes with the incredible models that are put forward. And we go through a rigorous process of ensuring that those are accurate and demonstrate the appropriate mechanism of injury or whatever else it is we're trying to show in that module. And then finally, we also include objective assessment. And so as the users go through, they're provided with feedback both in real time on how they're performing and where they can improve on their technical skills, but also once they've completed a run, they will receive performance assessment so that they can go back through and continue trying to increase their skill set and receive an objective assessment by an unbiased party, specifically software. So let me now share with you a little bit of what the system looks like. So as you can see in that video, we have partnered with medical device companies. Partnered with medical device companies, residency programs, and nonprofits to develop the. All right. There we go. To develop out the techniques that meet the demands of the industry, but also fulfill the three tiers of our company's mission. And it has been an incredible ride. But as we've done that, the next big question is, okay, we've created a solution, but does it really work? And so we've done several. We're actually going to be we're going to be publishing our, I believe, 8th peer-reviewed study very soon in an upcoming publication. So we're very excited about that. But some of our early studies have already demonstrated how effective virtual reality is as a training tool. So this particular study here was performed it was published in the Journal for Surgical Education back in 2020, and it was focused on one of our tibial nail procedures, where they ran 2 groups against each other. One trained in virtual reality, the other using traditional methodologies. And as they went through, they assessed it in each of these different areas and found a 230% increase in the knowledge of the procedure and in the retention of those the surgical workflow. Another study demonstrated similar results when performing a unicondylar knee arthroplasty. This was a randomized blind trial. And as you can see in each of these areas, the training time went down, the procedure time went down for those who were trained in virtual reality, the number of redirects, whereas the knowledge of instrumentation, handling, and the overall procedural workflow increased significantly. In this video, we captured from that initial tibial nail procedure 2 groups. One, as you can see on the right, was trained using the virtual reality, whereas the one on the left was trained using traditional methodology. And then after they had been trained up to where they felt comfortable performing the procedure, they went into a Sawbones lab to demonstrate the retention of those steps. So as you can see, the student on the right, having just completed and receiving a nice little handshake for his work, he went through the procedure very quickly. You also notice on the left, there's the sheet of paper that's on the table. That is actually a cheat sheet that has the steps listed out for the entire procedure. Now you'll notice the student on the left, he checked that piece of paper 26 times throughout that throughout the time performing that on the Sawbones, whereas the student on the right didn't check it once. And that speaks not only to virtual reality's ability to convey the steps, but also, like I said, to reinforce and retain that the workflow knowledge much more effectively than other methodologies, because you're actually immersed in it and going through the steps and experiencing it. Now, as we've partnered with, like I said, medical device companies, we've gained a great understanding of what the traditional education journey looks like for the majority of healthcare providers. As they're going through, a lot of times when they adopt new medical devices, they will receive a product demo. And this can be in a variety of different methods, depending on what the product is. But most of the time, it's fairly limited in their exposure. It'll oftentimes be videos, technique guides, an IFU, and that's their initial exposure. Then if they are interested to continue with it, they'll do a Sawbones or cadaver training lab. They'll go in person to meet up, and then they will they'll go in to perform their first case. A lot of times between the cadaver training lab or demo, there's about a 6-month gap before they ever do their first case, which means that 6 months for the knowledge that they've accrued to diminish. And a lot of times this is why they require help within the operating room in the form of sales reps, or even unfortunately, they will have to Google and look up the technique guide while they're performing that particular surgery, so they have a greater understanding of what they're doing. What we're aiming to do is change that education journey. So instead of having them wait and do their first case and then recognizing that longer curve, which is the 50 to 100 cases to gain full proficiency, we want to change it to look more like this, where initially they are trained up using virtual reality. So one of their first experiences is putting on the headset and getting hands-on with technology that otherwise would probably be inaccessible. As they've pre-trained before going to a Sawbones lab or cadaveric lab, they can develop the skills and also understand the workflow much better, so that when they get to that lab, they come prepared to not only show up with where they can confidently perform in front of their peers, but they also come prepared with questions and seeking for greater understanding of the technique. After performing that, they will continue to train in virtual reality before they get to their first case. And what this means is by the time they get to their first case, they've already put in the time, they've put in the reps so that they can confidently perform the technique with minimal guidance from other sources. So I'm now very excited to turn the time over to Farah and Hermansen, but I just want to stress why it is so important that medical illustrators are a part of this journey. I already pointed out that, of course, the visuals are such a critical part of the educational value that Osso VR brings and virtual reality. But I think there's also something deeper. So we actually have two teams of medical illustrators within Osso VR, our organic artists, of course, and then a team we call MedTech. And our MedTech medical illustrators, they spend the majority of their time designing these techniques and building out the workflow within Unity, which we utilize as our game engine. And the reason that they fill that role so well is because they have not only the ability to create amazing visuals, but they also have a great clinical understanding, which they've gained through the education provided by these amazing programs. And those two elements paired together make them the perfect pairing to lead these projects and to communicate with the medical device clients and also the subject matter experts in whatever field we're developing in, where they feel confident in our ability to understand and break down these complex procedures into an interactive workflow. So with that said, I would now like to hand the rest of the presentation over to Farah and Hermansen. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. I'm Hermansen. I'm a senior organic artist at Osso. So another place that you'll find medical illustrators at Osso is in the art department. As I mentioned, Farah and myself, we are both organic artists, and we're responsible for creating the drapes, organs, bones, and any other anatomical models. Medical illustrators, as part of the organic artist team, we can also tap into our communication skills and project management skills and take on the role as a project lead for organic artists. On the other hand, we have hard surface artists. They create the surgical tools, the operating room, the patient table, and as the name suggests, any other assets that has a hard surface and isn't classified as an organic asset. Organic artists often work closely with hard surface artists to ensure that the medical device or implant fits our patient anatomy. Our animators and riggers are the people that bring our assets to life. They're also there to support for complex animations. Our technical artists on our team, they're really the wizards on the team. They provide tools to make all of our lives easier, and they form the bridge between art, medtech, and engineering to ensure that the content and features are easily integrated into our VR training modules. And we could not operate without our producer. As Dan mentioned, we're a pretty big team. We're a team of over 200 people, and our art department itself is quite large. Our producer keeps us all on schedule. She has a big picture of all of our projects. They are responsible for the art roadmap and ensuring that we all deliver our assets in a timely manner and are the communication bridge between art and all the other departments at Osso. And last but not least, we have our art director. He is the one that makes sure that our content is up to par and keeps all of our art looking great. Our art director, Jeremy, leads us with kindness. And as an artist, it's common for us to be self-critical, but he guides us and gives us confidence to grow into the best artists we can be while pushing us to innovate and scale. I feel really lucky to be working with a team that functions so harmoniously. What makes our team so special is our diverse industry backgrounds that we come from. Our art department draws from talent from veteran game developers, film, VFX, and VR artists from companies such as Industrial Light and Magic, Microsoft, and Apple. They have contributed to some of the largest franchises that many of you may be familiar with, like Marvel, Star Wars, Halo, Mortal Kombat, and Jurassic Park, just to name a few. That doesn't even cover everything. They bring to the team industry standards and techniques. I've personally benefited a ton from them. I remember being blown away during my first month at Osso at how willing and patient everyone was to share their knowledge with me. It's definitely made me personally level up my work, and every day it feels like going back to school in the best way and without the BMC sleep deprivation. As Dan mentioned, we are a very large medical illustration. We are a company that employs a lot of medical illustrators. And in both our art department and MedTech teams, we have alumni from from 5 different programs. I love how as medical illustrators, we all speak that common language, but we come in with a slightly different perspective because we come from different schools. And it is not a homogeneous environment where we all bring in different skills. And regardless of our industry background, whether it be from film and game or medical illustration, our art department really comes together and are passionate about creating work that matters. We believe in Osso's mission, and we want to use our talents to bring positivity to the world. And also a side note, we're also the largest medical illustration team in the world, which I think is pretty cool. I'll now pass it on to Farah, and she'll show some of the work that we do at Osso and what our work culture is like as a remote team.
Thanks, Vincent. Yeah, I'm Farah. I'm an organic artist on the art team. And yeah, as Manson said, we're a really diverse group of artists coming from all sorts of different industries. And like she said, I also feel very lucky to be able to learn. The last 2 years of me being at Osso has been such a wonderful learning experience, be it us medical illustrators kind of sharing our knowledge of the sciences and how we approach learning and researching these kinds of highly detailed, technical, often filled with jargon type of information in order to achieve accuracy in our work. And then we're also learning so many amazing techniques from the film and gaming and VFX industry. And it all comes together to create these high fidelity, accurate, really visually dynamic assets that help achieve our learning goals and create these immersive environments for those who are using Osso VR. And yeah, even though we are a fully remote company, we really try to stay connected. What you're seeing on the screen is an example of the Ossotober that we did in October, which was really fun. It's just a way for us to stay connected, really build these kind of friendships across the teams, even though we all live in different cities and countries even, and just also to foster our other types of art and illustration skills apart from what we do at Osso. So we really try to maintain that on our team. And we were really lucky to be able to be in person this year at our company retreat. And I won't show the whole video, but I'll show a snippet of our retreat that was in Utah. And it was wonderful because we were able to also interact with people who we don't normally interact with on a daily basis, getting to know other teams that I've never even spoken to. So it was a really fun experience. And we can play a really short clip of that.
Declare the Osso Winter Games open!
Yeah, so we're all silly and we like to have fun apart from, you know, doing the heads down work that we're doing on a daily basis. Oh. And to end, I wanted to bring it back home and to highlight some of the skills that us from BMC that are currently at Osso have been able to build and put in our tool set that we use daily, whether it be on the art team or the MedTech team as medical illustrators. And I know some of these have already been highlighted, but these are all really crucial for the work we do, including our research practices, which is something that might kind of fly under the radar a bit, but our ability to search for good sources of information and to be able to understand those highly technical and again often filled with jargon articles and surgical videos. We're really able to understand that and help our colleagues also understand that information. Our technical skills, of course, we built such a great foundation at BMC that we're able to build upon, whether it be at Osso or anywhere else that BMCers found themselves. We're also able to really adapt to changes that come about, whether it's our workload or things that are unexpected. I know everybody at BMC has had to deal with unexpected things happening during their projects, so we've all got that. Of course, our project management skills, whether it be as individuals working on something or collaborating with others, it's a crucial skill that we've learned during the program. Our communication skills are really important. Either communicating difficult topics or information, but also just being able to communicate amongst each other and get things done in a way that makes everybody happy. And then last but not least, our really good foundation in the health sciences really set us up for success, I think, in what we do at Osso. And before we jump into our Q&A, I just wanted to highlight that there is a demo at 12:30, I believe, during lunch that Manson and Alex are going to be leading. And then in the meantime, there's a QR code here that you can scan. It'll open this really cool augmented reality heart that we have through Instagram, if you guys want to check that out. And we can maybe post this somewhere else for people to use. Yeah, we'll jump into any questions.
Thanks so much, everyone. That's super cool to see the work that that you do. Anyone have any questions for this team? Everyone's just taking it in, just so mind blown, you know.
I have a question. I'm not sure if it was covered or not, so I apologize if you already spoke about it. I'm curious about when you're developing these virtual reality experiences, like I imagine that it takes an enormous amount of time and resources and to build that final product. And I'm curious if you do any prototyping, like before you build the final thing, and like what that prototyping looks like for virtual reality specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. I can speak to that. So as we go through our development process, a lot of it depends on who the client is as well. So let's say it's one of our medical device partners. Initially, what we're going to do is go through the design. So we will gain references from them, gain a great understanding of what this particular technique is, what their educational goals are, who the target audience is. And using all of that information, we'll put together essentially an interaction work like storyboard. And that is used to communicate to the client and demonstrate that we have a good understanding not only of their technique, but also of how this how we'll meet their goals within the virtual reality module that we want to develop. Once we have design approval, then we go into development, and a lot of times we start off with proxies. So if they have specific CAD models, we will work on getting those optimized and brought in, and then we'll set up a scene, kind of a prototype, like you were saying, to make sure we have all of the steps of the workflow down. And that way we can either put together a video or an initial build that they will run through and provide workflow feedback before we dive into the full finalized art assets. And that way there's not as much rework back and forth for the art team as we receive that client feedback. Once we have those finalized assets, we'll incorporate those in, again, go through and make sure that everything looks the correct way before we fully release the module for healthcare providers to train.
Thank you.
We have a question from someone in our live audience over in Toronto, so we'll get a moment just to get her set up. There we are.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Okay, hello, my name is Contessa. Thank you so much for that incredible presentation. So my question is regarding the role of the art director. So I'm curious how, because their role is obviously very important, and there's a lot that goes into their mind. How does the art director balance what is important for the end goal and what their biases are?
That's a great question. Maybe Manson, maybe you could speak to this a little bit, since you've been doing bits of that on our teams.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. I think overall our Osso has developed a certain look, and we try to maintain our assets so that it's harmonious between different projects in a way so that's also efficient for us to reuse assets when possible with organic assets. We have people on the team that develop shaders that we can reuse as well. And in terms of giving feedback, it's kind of divided between putting our assets through a build, and our art director will view it in the headset itself. And what he'll be looking for is just so that there's like, he'll be looking at your assets and then he'll give feedback, but it's always keeping in mind with like, keeping with our timeline and schedule and all of that. And of course, like at the end of the day, it's about the educational goals. So that's what the art director is thinking about. And I think it's easy to take yourself away from your own biases when you think about the project goals and educational goals. I'm sorry, I don't know if I answered that question.
Very well, thank you so much.
Thank you.